Well, it's just arrived at our scheduled 10 o'clock start. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our monthly safety update. So I'm Gary Rowe, the CEO of Safety Action. The rest of the team's pretty busy this morning, and Andrea's off up the snow with her children, so the school holidays. So I'm going to run this morning's update on my own. As usual, this is quite informal, and what we're trying to do is just give you a quick update, maybe over that morning tea cup of coffee time, in 20 minutes to half hour, hopefully, is our normal scheduled time, to bring you up to date with a number of things that are happening around the countryside in relation to safety. So number one, what I'd like to do, we don't have him just here in the office at the moment, but we've got a new team member in Safety Action, a new safety consultant. It's Andre Wozniak. You may have seen his photo in our July newsletter, and he joins us from Tiger Air. So he was previously, before the COVID, all the interruptions to all the flights, an airline pilot, obviously with a keen interest in safety. He's done a safety course, and he's done a couple of years of work over recent times in the area of safety. So we'll be looking forward to introduce Andre Wozniak to you and many friends over the coming weeks. So what are we going to look at today, just in terms of our topics? Just a couple of things, if I may. With this cold weather, and it's a particularly cold winter this year, at least it kicks off that way. Increasingly, people ask us every year about this time about thermal comfort in buildings. We know it's cold outside, coats, gloves, hats, whatever, but people start to ask about what is the legal requirements for providing safe and comfortable work environments indoors. So we'll come to that. There's new regulations on licensing for artificial stone. Most people's kitchen benches, bathroom benches, and elsewhere these days are artificial stone, sometimes called engineered stone. There's a new license requirement in Victoria. We'll come to that. There's some new information on some mandatory standards from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, on button or coin batteries. So all of us have got them now, whether they're in your electric watch or in a mouse or in some small item, that you'll find they're becoming extremely common, and so we'll explain those shortly. And we'd like to give you some ideas for the new financial year on what you might consider as part of your safety plan. So let's kick off. Cold in this time of year. So let's have a look. So at this time of year, people often say in my office, I'm still feeling cold. Yes, they've got air conditioning. And they even ask questions about, should I be allowed to put an electric bar, radiator or heater under my desk or something of that nature? And some of our clients have policies on this subject and some don't. So let's have a quick look. It's a blurry-eyed image you might have on screen there, so don't worry if you can't read it. If you're interested in this, we have a fact sheet on thermal comfort in offices. So you can just contact the office, email or call, and Jessica or one of the admin team will shoot that through to you. So here it is in short. There is no regulated temperature for indoor temperatures. However, there are authoritative standards, including from WorkSafe and other government authorities, on what is appropriate and comfortable for people working indoors. So the reason they separate that clearly is outdoors you can't control it. We simply cannot control if somebody's working up in the snow, so they've got to go out. It's really about PPE, gloves, jackets, hats, etc. But indoors, you and I, like myself now, in a shirt, essentially, shirt sleeves, we would like a nice, comfortable office. So what are the requirements? So the first little tip is do not focus solely on temperature. So when people come to you and say, I'm uncomfortable, it's too cold, hot or stuffy, temperature is one of the requirements, but it's not the sole requirement for thermal comfort indoors. So let's look at temperature first. So what I can give you is guidance. And the guidance is, and all the authoritative guidance is, indoors, anywhere between 20 degrees and 26 degrees should be considered quite comfortable for the vast majority of fit, healthy people. And I do say fit, healthy people because you will have some people who have particular conditions or poor circulation. They might have some weak heart, they might have some other condition, and they're more prone to actually feeling cold than normal people, particularly if they haven't been up and about. So where we should be looking to set our air conditioning when we have air conditioning or heating systems, somewhere between, for indoors in offices, somewhere between 20 and 26, in that range should be okay. What I can also tell you is that the authoritative advice is that people will not suffer ill health effects in a broader range, and they explain that for indoors where people are sedentary, so not doing physical work, like in a warehouse where people might be doing moving around and manual handling, they may go to lower temperatures again. And sedentary work, people will not suffer ill health effects in a broader range, somewhere between 18 degrees and up to 30 degrees. So today we'll focus on cold because we're in the winter. Maybe as we come into summer, we'll look at working in the heat. But so there's your temperature range. Now, that's not the sole answer for thermal comfort. We've all heard of humidity, and we know if you go up north in Queensland, particularly in the summer, high humidity, oppressive heat. Go to Singapore, anywhere around the tropics, high humidity, yet the temperature might only be around 30 degrees, which we think in Melbourne is a nice warm day. So clearly, temperature combined with humidity is one of the other factors that can increase or decrease thermal comfort. So what's the guidance? In an office, somewhere between 40 and 60 degrees. I was looking around, we've got a lot of instruments in our office, but I can't remember whether we have the barometer for the and measuring humidity. So, however, there is no supported scientific evidence that extremes of humidity will cause significant health effects, even though you may feel stuffy, you may not be comfortable, you don't like it, but it will not necessarily create ill health effects. But people will come to you and they will complain. So now we've got temperature and humidity. And the third one you'll all know about, drafts, ventilation. If you are sitting underneath a vent for your air conditioning system, even though the temperature may be in that nice comfortable range, 20 to 26 for winter in particular, we'll feel okay indoors with that. But somebody may say to you, I'm freezing cold. So they're near a doorway that opens and shuts, or near a roller door that's left slightly ajar, or near a vent, and they're getting direct airflow on them. So the general rule of thumb and guidance is between 0.1 and 0.2 meters per second. So you'll need an instrument if somebody wants to bother to measure that, if that's considered a problem. But the reality is you'll know it's drafty, and you can actually move people away from drafts or take some action or put a shield or barrier there. So, and if it's a naturally ventilated environment and you don't actually have forced ventilation, but you may have heating in the room, which could be a radiator or something, they say up to half a metre per second, 0.5. So there's some guidance. So what we can see is temperature. If it's too low, people will feel cold, they'll be shivering, they're going to tell you. Today we're more interested in that. So somebody's just telling my camera appears to be off. I do apologise, team. My screen's gone off as well, but I haven't touched my my camera. So hopefully I'll come back on soon, team. So and welcome, Chiara. I just see you come on screen there. Welcome. So I'll continue. So temperature, if it's too cold, shivering, cold. If it's too high, people will tell you in summer months, stuffiness, stickiness, tiredness. Humidity, so what are the typical symptoms people are going to tell you? If it's too low, they're going to have dry eyes. So people, even though you may have a nice temperature in the office, if humidity is too low, it's very dry, and you'll have more people complaining around dryness of eyes, nose and throat. And obviously, I told you earlier, high humidity, people are going to feel sticky, stuffy and fatigued. And that's what happens often in the tropics with that high humidity. Ventilation too low, it's going to be stuffy and possible odours in your office or work environments. And if it's too high, as in ventilation flow rates, it's going to be drafts. And people, even though the temperature may be fine, they're going to tell you it's uncomfortable. So there you go. So if you're interested in more on thermal comfort in offices and indoors, just give us a hoy and we'll shoot you through a copy of that fact sheet. So Jessica's online, or any of our admin team can forward that to you if you have an interest. So I think it was Andrew of our team put this article in our July newsletter on button batteries, and initially I wasn't that excited by the topic. I don't know why, it just didn't jump out at me as something that I immediately needed to show a lot of attention to. But I've had a quick look around. So, and I'll just give you a quick update on what this is about. The ACCC has brought out mandatory standards that have taken effect on from the 22nd of last month. This is not for you or I, this is for manufacturers and suppliers of button batteries. So what are button batteries, or coin batteries as they're sometimes called? They look like coins or buttons, and that's why they're called that. And they're typically about 20 millimetres in diameter. They could be smaller, they could be a bit larger. And I'll give you the criteria in a moment. And the image on screen may be showing you some of these, some very small and getting a bit larger. These four mandatory standards have come out. 2 are about safety and packaging, and 2 are on safety and warning information. So once again, this is for suppliers of this, not for you or I as consumers, but I'll give you some tips as consumers in a moment. So let's have a quick look. So under the Competition and Consumer Act 2010, the ACCC has authority to issue for consumer safety requirements, whether it be on primarily on businesses operating. So what are coin or button batteries? They're small flat batteries that resemble a coin or a button. That's where they get the name. And there are 2 main types that they distinguish in the safety standards. Those that are lithium chemistry and those that are non-lithium, which are greater than 16 millimetres in diameter. Isn't that interesting? I always thought they'd be focusing on the ones that are smaller than 16 millimetres. So if they're lithium based, that doesn't matter what dimension, whether they're very small or even larger than 16 or 20 millimetres in diameter, they're regarded as a higher hazard, and they're covered by these new 4 mandatory standards. And if they're non-lithium chemistry based, it's if they're 16 millimetres or above. So I don't know why it's smaller. I would have assumed the smaller ones. I can only assume, I haven't read it, but I can only assume that maybe the smaller ones, if ingested by a child, may pass through their system and their bowels somewhat quicker and easier. And I'll come to why that's important. So the key risk, as you'll probably appreciate with button batteries, everyone understands children putting things in their mouth and choking. So choking is number 1. But number 2 is actually the chemistry of these batteries. And they, particularly if they're damaged and even flat, they can quickly, and they say within 2 hours, can break down and start releasing chemicals because of the strong acids inside humans, and releasing and have a chemical reaction that can actually cause serious tissue damage, internal tissue damage, particularly to children, and even death. So just to let you know, so the size of the problem with coin or button batteries, which surprised me when I looked this up. 3 children, as of April this year, 3 children have died and 44 have been seriously injured in Australia alone from button or coin batteries. And they say on average, there's 1 child a month is seriously injured from ingesting coin or button batteries. So we've got a fair idea now, this is in fact a genuine serious problem. So what they've devised is in fact 2 packaging mandatory standards. As I've mentioned to you, there has to be child resistant packaging with warnings for lithium chemistry coin batteries of all of all sizes. So moving forward, as of now, if you come across any packaging with lithium-based batteries of any size and they do not have the child-resistant packaging and warnings, which I'll explain in a moment, they're non-compliant and you probably should report them to the appropriate authority, and that'll be the ACCC, or even to the supplier and let them know. If they're non-lithium, as I mentioned earlier, if they're 16 millimetres or greater diameter, they have to have the child-resistant packaging. And both of those have to have also information and warnings on them. Obviously, keep out of reach of children and moving on to correct disposal. So what I can share with you is a couple of things. So let's have a look. So bear with me, if I can find it. So as soon as you've finished with a button or coin battery, one of the key recommendations is that you put sticky tape around both sides of the battery and dispose of it in an outside bin, obviously out of children's reach, or into your appropriate recycle receptacle. So putting the sticky tape on it, I think, helps reduce the risk of releasing the chemicals if ingested, and probably a child's less likely to put it in their mouth if it's got the sticky tape on it. So there'd be number one. The other thing you need to be aware of is that this can happen fairly quickly. Obviously, choking can be an immediate threat. And they talk about if they ingest it, these batteries, they can, the stomach lining, etc., can break it down in a short period of time, and they suggest within 2 hours it could be causing serious tissue damage inside a person or a particular child. So we need to move fairly quickly. So if you suspect someone's swallowed a button battery, particularly a child, obviously you should get onto the poison centre and seeking immediate medical help, and asks for an X-ray fairly quickly, because this is what you suspect. So remember, we've got about a 2-hour window is what they tell us typically. And obviously, if you've got any of this equipment, well, you'll be looking at your items. So these ACCC mandatory standards are around packaging, child-resistant packaging and warnings. So now what about your equipment, your items? So look for your items. Are they child resistant and secure? And where are you locating them if they're not? And there's a couple of exemptions to these standards, just so that you understand. It could be a supplier who's providing a bulk supply of coin or button batteries for professional use, and that may not have the same packaging, child-proof packaging requirements. Or if the batteries are zinc air chemistry for hearing aids, which is different to the lithium that I mentioned to you that has a higher chemical risk. And by the way, if you have any of these batteries and you believe they were not packaged correctly or warnings, you're entitled to a refund. You can take them back. ACCC will enforce that. So manufacturers or suppliers can't say, oh, but you bought it, it's okay. It may be part of the opportunities you have for redress in relation to that. So there's a quick summary on button batteries that surprised me when I had a quick look at what was involved in that. So thank you, Andrea, for bringing that to our attention this morning for our news update. So it's the start of the financial year. I know we're a few days into it. Here's our safety actions suggestions. Treat each either calendar year or financial year as an opportunity to have a quick look, fresh look at what your safety program, how effective it is, and what you are doing for you and your team. So the first thing we'd suggest that you at least consider is safety leadership training. We have a number of other technical half-day workshops which may be of assistance either on manual handling, chemicals handling, chemical risk assessments, etc. But the most popular training program we have is our 2-day safety leadership training. So if you're interested in that, give us a hoy. It may be that what you're looking for is an independent perspective of your safety program, and that's a safety audit or safety review. And it might surprise you what outsiders see of you and your team and your safety program. Always worthwhile. Even a number of our good friends are not aware that we have what we call a safety helpline service, and many of our good clients, everyone from Toyota, Melbourne Business School, Nutrien, and many others have a safety helpline service with us, which means them and their key safety team or key managers can call us at any time or email at any time, 24/7. We're not up 24/7 to take those calls, but we may well be available and take them in the evening. So you may surprise you get an instant answer, but we'll certainly get back very quickly. Any safety inquiry, anything at all. Have you got a checklist on this? Have you got a sample form? Have you got a sample risk assessment for this? Have you got a sample procedure for operating a particular type of machine or whatever? We have an extensive library of this. The questions the range of questions we get under our safety helpline are enormous, and I love it because it actually, if we don't know the answer, I'm interested to find out. So we like saying, gee, I don't know the answer to that. So that interests us, and we'll invest in time to come back to you with a correct and considered answer. So safety helpline might be of interest to you. We also help many clients with safety manuals or individual procedures. So there you go, just some little tips. Have a fresh look at your safety program coming into the new financial year. So the last main topic of this morning's update is the new engineered stone licence in Victoria. So under the Victorian regulations, there are new requirements for engineered stone. And so what we have is they took effect from the 15th of November last year, but there was a 12-month transition period. So if you or any business you know or friends that you know are undertaking what's called an engineered stone process. What that means is cutting, grinding, polishing artificial stone, artificial bench tops, for example. You might know them as Caesar stone, Decton, quartz, sill, stone, Viterra stone. Generally, it is kitchen and bathroom bench tops, but they could be anywhere these days. And most of it is not granite. It may look like granite. Most of it is now called engineered stone. So if someone's doing a cutting, grinding, polishing process, for example, on any engineered stone, they now need a license. So the license took effect from 15th of November last year, but actually the transition period commences from 15th of November this year. So no one is in breach at the moment, even though the regulation is in place. So there's a 12-month transition. But if you know anyone who's doing an engineered stone process, if they get the license now before the 15th of November this year, one, the license is free, and two, it will take effect for 5 years from the 15th of November. So even though you got it before November, you'll have 5 years from 15th of November this year. If they wait until after 15th of November, they'll have to pay a fee, and it'll be 5 years from whatever that date is. So just an update on engineered stone licenses to keep people up to date with what's happening there. So it's a quick run through this morning. So I was operating with this on myself. So on behalf of our team at Safety Action, I hope our monthly, I like to think of it as like a coffee cup update on topical safety matters. Lovely to see a number of our good friends there. They're on out the side of my computer there. Great to see you. Hopefully this short update has been helpful. We look forward to seeing you next month. So Friday, the 12th of August is our next brief monthly update on safety matters. But if you have a question or you have a topic you would like us to cover in our monthly webinar, feel free to just drop us a note or email or text or a phone call. We'll be happy to include it. So thank you once again, everyone. Apologies, I've got a message. My camera went down. I don't know what happened there. So sorry about that. We'll have it fixed for next month as well. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.